and then with others, and Bard that became Gemini and Copilot and Perplexity and Claude and DeepSeek and all the rest have disrupted the way we do things in academia. Mainly, the major disruption has been happening in assessment. But I don't know you guys, but here in Malta, this is the University of Malta, by the way, it's not a castle. It's called the Gateway Building for our university. It's the gateway to education. In Malta, the university is still struggling, especially, and academics are still struggling. So, as an introduction, my name is Matthew. I'm the head of the department within the AI department, part of the faculty of ICT. And my main work in these last 3 years was training academics, training educators in Malta, training doctoral students, postdoc students, and even undergraduate students on the efficient use of AI and Gen AI. So this framework and this triple R framework came out of numerous workshops. We're talking about two workshops a week for these last 30 months, let's say that. What we do, we collect data pre-workshop and post-workshop, so plenty of data is being collected, as stated in my paper, and obviously through that we can draw a number of recommendations and number of insights. So the idea started, obviously, especially with assessment, is, as you can see in this diagram, on the left is pre-2022, when we all had AI, yeah, fine, but we didn't have Gen AI. But instruction and assessment followed this sort of sequence where a lecturer, an academic, an educator gave instruction using some kind of pedagogy, could be using slides, could be using workshops, could be doing whatever they're using. And there was an engagement between him or her together with the students, this cognitive reasoning, and with the assumption that some knowledge construction is happening. Whatever you want to use, if you want to use handouts, if you want to use chalk and talk, if you want to use whatever, if it's online, if it's micro-credentials, it's not the issue over here. And at the end of it, we did some kind of assessment performance to measure how much of the knowledge has gone through, to measure how much the student has acquired knowledge, and so on and so forth. What happened with the obviously with Gen AI coming through, there's been this shift, literally a shift from a necessity to engage cognitively to a choice where the student could decide whether or not, obviously to his or her detriment, to engage in one way or another. So we have the instruction and academics changing the way they instruct or they teach. Some of them, I would say, because not all of them realize this. And when asked, the students asked to check their knowledge by asking them to do a task, they have this optional choice to either go and obviously create the output without even understanding it, just a copy and paste, and bypass this knowledge construction completely. So my immediate thought 3 years ago was, oh dear, what's going to happen? That people will lose their capacity, this beautiful skill of cognitively reading, of cognitively thinking, of critical argumentation, having an opinion. And so there will be a gap, literally a cognitive, I call it a cognitive engagement gap, where we are decoupling, basically removing from each other the assessment from the cognitive process. So the assessment does not measure cognitive acquisition at this point. We are not sure who wrote the essay. We are not sure who did the presentation. We are not sure who drew that diagram. I have no problem with the use of AI. Obviously, I'm in the AI department. I've been there for these last 30 years. I've been the head for the last 15 years. So I encourage, embrace the use of AI in a good best practices way. If you just use, I'm talking about students, but also adults, if you just use AI to generate output, to copy and paste it, bypassing your thought process, bypassing your acquisition or cognitive acquisition process, you are literally acquiring no knowledge at all. if you keep on doing this over and over again, when I say you, imagine an 11-year-old child, a 12-year-old girl in school, generating her assignments or creating his own tasks, and without thinking about it, submits that. As we go along, year after year, there will be this cognitive offloading because we're offloading the task to a machine where we do not acquire knowledge at all. Is it possible? Yes, I think it would be possible where people literally offload, lose the skill, just as I lost the skill to speak French because I don't practice it, even though as a 13-year-old I could. I lost the skill of doing CPR because I do not practice it anymore and I don't do my reskilling as a first aider for these last 10 years. So yes, you will lose, as any other skill, you will lose this cognitive skill. So this is the basis of all what I'm talking about, of all this framework. There is a way, obviously, to go. I don't want to be negative, but there is a way of um, teaching people or instructing people on good ways, on best practices of how to use these tools. Okay, this takes me to um, this concept of at some point we're going to have two kinds of students or two kinds of humans, literally. And I call it the cognitive divide. We used to have the digital divide in the past between those people who have the access to digital and those that don't have access to digital. Now, I think it's taken for granted that everybody needs to have access to digital, but with the introduction of AI and with the advent of generative AI, there is a digital divide converting into a cognitive divide, where on one side we have AI guided thinkers who can control, make use, good practices of steering the technology to assist them. And on the other side, we have dependent users or AI dependent users, to make it with a heavy sort of name, who completely accept, submit, reproduce, and without obviously acquiring any knowledge in the process. And this is the problem that I see. Passive users, and even though we are adults, some adults will still fall to this. But the greatest danger lies in our young students. And when I say young, not just 11, 12, 13, but even 17, 18 university students. But for sure, young students as young as 10, 11, 12, and 13 can easily, literally get addicted to the use of the technology, comfortably, conveniently, getting the machine to do um, everything accepted blindly, and obviously do not acquire any of these. Rely on the technology without awareness or control. So I think this gap will be growing, and I think it's largely unexamined. So what I propose is this three pillars of how we can overcome um, this challenge. It's much of it has come through discussions with academics during these workshops because we do kind of presentations and then we open the floor. And what's nice about these workshops, where I talk about these workshops in my paper, we're talking about I don't know, 100 academics a week from different domains. And this is the beauty about it. Academics from different domains could be from the Faculty of Arts, from the sciences, education, while I obviously come from a background of Faculty of Education and Faculty of ICT put together. And with their insights, we're looking on ways, on one, responsible use of AI, instilling a sense of do not be fearful, do not be afraid to embrace the technology in the right way. So I want to show other academics on how to embrace technology in a fruitful, good practice way by upholding integrity, obviously, by giving them example of how to design different assessments. But my main concept over here is you need to adapt, you need to reskill. Whoever still insists on teaching literally as they used to teach 5 years ago, not talking about 20 years ago, 5 years ago, and assessing as they did 5 years ago, they will become completely irrelevant. And I give them examples from other professions. Imagine a doctor or a dentist who is still using tools from when he or she graduated. Okay? Imagine you go to a dentist who still does not believe or use the tools of anesthesia, for example. I think you won't like it for sure. Same thing, we're subjecting our students to old technologies. And a second pillar is that all academics at this point, irrespective of your domain, you should be digitally fluent or AI fluent even more. Okay, knowledge, skills, and how to use the technology. Critically evaluate the output, obviously, and use it to assist you, empower you, and enhance your output, and eventually be much more productive. So yes, engage with Gen AI as a cognitive partner, not a substitute. And finally, the third pillar is about equity-minded deployment, where you're going to access tools for everybody, training to how to use it. The institution, like the university, provides the tools, provides subscriptions, as we do at University of Malta, but also provides the training, especially with people who are practicing the different technologies. We design them for inclusivity, with ethics in mind as well, and obviously keeping in mind other issues apart from ethics, bias and fairness, obviously. So we explained the entire Gen AI process and the use of AI. In that light, eventually, we go for actionable recommendations, which is the transversal at the bottom. One first good practice is, and maybe I can close with this, one, do not use one engine. Do not just use ChatGPT or Copilot only. Use a number. At minimum, I recommend three, maximum five. I don't want information overload. Why do I use more than one? Two, so that I can, which is number two, generate ideas. Do not look for answers, I tell my students. If you look for an answer, the chance of copying and pasting is going to be multiplied. So grab three books, grab three engines, ask, prompt the same thing to the three engines, and acquire ideas, okay, not answers. And in this way, you're acquiring knowledge and then you decide. And finally, the third recommendation is to engage with Gen AI as if it is a cognitive partner, as if it is a sparring partner, as if you're training your own skills, not as a substitute. The human has to remain the brain behind the outcome, the product, the assignment, and whatever it is. Nothing wrong by using technology, by using tools, nothing wrong about that for sure, but use it to your advantage so that it empowers you, so that it adds more ideas to your mind, so that it opens more horizons. And obviously, this could be done through we're doing this through cross-disciplinary faculty workshops, as I said already, AI enhanced course designs, and institutionally started experiences and lessons. This has involved the landscape of research to multiple. Obviously, this is my research area, so it's opened pathways to educational design, as I said, to ethics and governance. For example, one of governance is that we teach AI ethics, we teach AI literacy, and we teach the use of Gen AI, good practice, to all the students, irrespective of their faculty, not just to IT students, as we do in our faculty, but even the students at the Faculty of Arts, at the Faculty of Law, at the Faculty of Medicine, they all use AI and Gen AI. Okay? So don't kid yourselves. The students are using it 100% all the time, as we are using it all the time. It also opened the doors for technical innovation, is what we do in our department. I strongly believe that Gen AI and AI is very domain specific. So whatever I teach in IT or ICT is different on the way it's used in arts, on the way it's used in law, on the way it's used in the built environment or architecture. It's a completely different kind of scenario. Even the way we teach, even the way we assess has to be different from one domain to another. At the base of it always is the human-centered AI, okay? The human in the loop, that at the end of the day, if we lose this, we literally are enslaving ourselves to the technology. And obviously, without policy development, without a legal framework, even at a society level, all this won't work. Okay, so I think that's very important. I don't know if I have any more time. Um,
Actually, it's 5 minutes warning right
oh,
now.
oh,
So
there you go.
you have 5 minutes to elaborate.
Good, good. Maybe I'll finish early because I want to take questions as well, because it is a topic too hard to me, and I do this on a weekly basis. So, as I said, the key themes here, we're talking about AI and human cognition because I get plenty of criticism about this. For example, our department, our faculty, and our university is involved at a national level. I know Malta is not massive, okay, it's 500,000 people living in Malta. It's one of the first countries in the EU to have an AI strategy since 2019. We also have a legal system based on AI as well, and an AI framework based on the EU AI Act as well. But we also the first country to provide AI literacy to the entire nation. So something that happened a month ago, the government of Malta offered all Maltese residents, including foreigners who live in Malta, I mean, um, access to an online course about AI literacy on the use of generative AI mainly. And once you finish this course, I know about it because it's our department who developed it in collaboration with the government. Once you finish this course, which is about 4 to 5, 6 hours, depending how long you take, which has a core of three units. Once you finish this course, you get a free subscription to a generative AI engine. Whoever you are, whatever age you could be obviously a 13-year-old to a university student to an elderly person living in our country. So it was one of the first countries in EU to push this. So I think the AI and human cognition, the fact that we're trying to teach everybody or giving them some earmarking them, giving them appreciation of what AI can do and how to use Gen AI in a good practice, those three things I told you, more than one engine, ideas, not um, seek ideas, not answers, and use it as collaborator. We're trying to instill this in everybody so that obviously we build a stronger workforce. Another key theme is power and autonomy. So who is controlling AI? So as I said, I want the human to be in control rather than being controlled by it. Whichever the technology, forget AI now, forget Gen AI, whichever the technology we talk about, if you allow it to dictate, literally, you enslave yourself. You become a slave of whatever the technology is because you're not understanding it, because you cannot control it, and literally you're allowing it to replace you. Please notice the use of it because AI is not a he or a she. Okay, it's an it. And it has no brain, it has processing power, it has lots of data, and it has a good model on how to process this data. These three aspects, data, processing power, the GPUs, and the model, the artificial neural nets. This is what we teach. With these three models, these three facets that came into being since 2017 or slightly before, made Gen AI possible. And obviously, the result, as we know it, in 2021, it happened. So, yes, I think we need responsible governance, which is another key theme. We need the ethics, we need accountability, but we need also the law, EU AI Act. In fact, in Malta, we have an authority. It's called the Malta Digital Innovation Authority, which is controlled independent, but obviously it's a government national agency or an authority which controls the use of AI throughout the country. It is it's an enforcer of the EUI Act, and obviously it can act according to law. So it can go into schools, it can come to our university and checks that we're not using cameras in classrooms, for example, because it's illegal according to the EUI Act. And that's a very important point because otherwise, if university or any other person in industry abuses, that's the right word, abuses the technology, in this case AI, for profit, then it should be illegal. Okay, because if that happens, academically we lose completely control, and to my mind, we're obviously shooting ourselves in the legs. And finally, a key theme, apart from the ethics and accountability, is the human partnership. I already mentioned it in the slide before. The fact that we're using it as a collaborator, as a launch pad, as an empowering agent, and we use it to enhance our capabilities. So yes, apart from this fact that it's not a replacement, it's a partner, I see a collaborative vision, human computer, use it, or human AI, use it as a decision support system. And this will reshape how AI ecosystems, as well with the previous speaker was talking about, that nice framework to be pushed into our education system to empower individuals and society. I think this helps also the second point, technological progress must strengthen, not erode, the cognitive autonomy of humans. Human being in control, that at some point they can explain how they got to the end of their product rather than just copy and paste. So when a student gives me a task, I will ask them easily, walk me through your process. I do not want to see the answer. Show me your working. Show me how you got there. What were you thinking? What was your thought process? And that is my assessment. And as I said, different domains, diverse disciplines, united by a common challenge to bridge this divide, which is the cognitive divide.
Excellent.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Fantastic.